buy guns, prepare for a civil war. I hope it never comes to that. Matt does have something to say, so I'm bringing him on the air right now. Matt for America, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tim, thanks. Great show today. Usually I don't listen to anything political on Sundays, but for some reason I decided to take a detour and found your show.
Are you there, Matt?
Yes, can you hear me? Hello? Tim, hello, can you hear me? I believe
I don't know if it's a technical glitch on my side, but I'm not hearing you. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me, Tim? Tim, hello.
All right. Well, let me see if I can fix this glitch real quick. I'm going to go to a little music and see if we can get Matt on the air. Hang on, and we will get right back to his call if we can get it going. Sorry about this, but bear with me. Are you there now, Matt?
Can you hear me now, Tim? Son of a bitch. You can't hear me at all, huh?
All right. I'm not real sure what's going on. If you want to try hanging up and calling back, we'll see if that'll work. I hadn't had any problems with the switchboard in a while, so, Matt, I'd love to have you go ahead if you want to hang up and call back, and then I'll try to get you on as soon as you dial in, and we'll get you on. Hopefully. I mean, I don't understand the deal there, but it has never had a problem with that before. Usually the problem is I have folks calling and I can't get them to shut up. I hate cutting folks off when they call. And yeah, sometimes you've got to, but at any rate, I've lost my train of thought, and we'll have to get back to this, but as soon as Matt calls back in, we'll get him on. Hopefully we'll be able to get that done rather quickly here. So I love it when folks call in and say what they've got to say. When we open up the lines in the second half of the show, I love to have them in. And now I'm going to try. Matt, are you there now?
Can you hear me now, Tim? God damn. Tim, can you hear me?
Right. I barely got you now. If you want to go ahead, I think we've got you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Good show today. I usually don't listen to anything on Sundays when it comes to politics, but I found your show. I'm very happy I did. I'll be listening for quite some time.
Thank you.
One thing that I find very interesting, really, when we're talking about what a liberal is, we were talking about what makes it. I told you I used to be a liberal, and one thing that it really is when you're looking at the leaders, you have to ask yourself, if you're the leader of a liberal, what do you want as far as power and control goes? And that's what we see with the liberal left. It's all about power and control, and that's our leaders. If you're looking at the voters, at the people, at their at their voting base, it's all about what do I want for myself. Let me give you a for instance. When you start looking at some of this liberal legislation, and that's not discluding Republicans. Obviously, Republicans have been turning liberal for the better part of the last 60 years. So, but if you look at that legislation, you look at all of this pork and these earmarks and all these things that just don't make sense, and then you look at modern day and you say, why are we having these budget problems where we can't even fund the government? Well, here's why. The reason is because we have a $1.75 trillion yearly bill when it comes to figuring out what's causing global warming. We are doing this research into why gay people are gay, why fat women can't seem to date like skinny women. All of these crazy pork and earmarks that are put into these bills, this is why. And what it does is it gives these people the power and the control and the money to do with what they please, what they want, their vision for the country. And their vision for the country has nothing to do with what the Founding Fathers and what the Constitution expected to have happen. It's all about power and control. And once people start waking up and realizing, like I just did my taxes, and I 1099, so I got to pay them. I just did my taxes, and I was shocked at what I owe. I'm talking about a third of my year I basically worked for free. Once people wake up, and you keep saying somebody's got to stand up, it's not somebody. It's a bunch of people that need to stand up. It's an entire party, or, like what Vorpalbite was saying earlier, people got to hurt. One of the two. Something's got to give, and unfortunately, unless somebody stands up in a big group, it's going to be everybody hurting, and then maybe people will start getting it.
Well, you're absolutely right. There's no question it has become, for the end user or the voter, what are you going to give me? How are you going to make me feel better about the mess that I'm in? And far too often they ignore what the price they're going to pay down the road is. But yeah, when I say we've got to stand up, I'm talking about all of us together. We've got to unify in a voice. We've got to make sure that we're reaching out to those folks to help them understand that while you may be thinking you're getting a free phone now or whatever the flavor of the month for the buying your vote technique happens to be, that there are real consequences that will hurt everyone down the road. I mean, it goes back to the old adage of when you try and patch a boat, then it'll stay afloat a little longer. But if you raise the water, you raise the tides, then the boat gets up higher for everybody. And that's got to be the ultimate goal. We've got to stop letting ourselves be divided so much and move forward.
Yeah, and I think that that's the key is, you know, as I said, we have seen people stand up before in Congress, you know, and say, I have a problem with this, I have an issue with this. But the problem is it's only one or two people that are actually holding a seat of some kind of power. And nobody joins that person, and usually they're bastardized in the liberal media. And, you know, they fall by the wayside. Or in, you know, the American populace, you have a Tea Party movement. It's not all that big. Not a ton of people are trying to jump on board and saying we need to get back to constitutionality. You just have small little groups. And you're right. Nothing's going to change until we either all stand up or a lot of people suffer. And Tim, I think, you know, what you're doing with your show here, and I just think it's great, and you keep getting that message out, especially on Sunday. Because Sunday, that's a hard one to get somebody's ear. But you know what? People have the time to listen. Keep doing it. Keep it up. Good job.
All right. Well, thank you. And I appreciate the encouragement. I got a question in the chat room saying that assume that we have a magic wand and all the corrupt politicians are replaced with honest men. We would still have to share the country with the 51% who voted Obama into office. How do we share a country/government with our enemies? Well, you know, I'm not sure that these people are really our enemies. I think they are, in fact, what Matt was pointing out, people who've gotten consumed with the me-first mentality and haven't put much thought into the fact that they're doing irreparable harm to the republic. I mean, there are tons of Americans that don't even understand that we have a constitutional republic as a form of government. Had Al Sharpton on TV trying to chastise a member of Congress not that long ago for telling him that we don't live in a democracy. People have to understand that, yes, that 51% of Americans that did vote that way, which, you know, to be honest, I got to tell you, I'm not convinced 51% of America voted Obama into office a second time. There were far too many irregularities at the polls. Lady Michelle says that the takers need to be cut off, and that happens. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. You know, I've made that statement on here a multitude of times. But We have to make sure that everybody understands that there are consequences, and eventually the piper will have to be paid. I mean, you would think a ton of people who got their first little dose of having to pay penalties on the Obamacare this year would suddenly be realizing this is more about taking control over my health care options and more about keeping them from sending back all the money that I used to get for free. Now, we haven't seen that much. I haven't heard a whole lot, with the exception of the fact that, I've talked last week about a couple of different individuals that I know personally who because of the way their paydays fell, they ended up being a little bit late paying a premium. And there was no grace period whatsoever. Their policies were canceled, and they tried to make them jump through so many hoops that they couldn't get through all the minutia in order to have a policy reinstated before the end of the year, or at least that's what they told me. I have no reason to doubt them. I believe them. But, sometimes people aren't willing to put forth any effort, and if that was the case, then so be it. But from what they told me, they tried. Well, at the end of the year, they ended up having to pay the penalty like they never had any insurance, and they ended up having to pay back the subsidies that they had received to that point to help pay for those policies that they did have for a while. These people went from where they would have ordinarily had 1,000 plus, and at this point I don't remember what exactly the numbers were, but both of them were over 1,000 that they would have gotten in a refund, to owing over 1,000. I'm surprised that more people haven't been louder and more vocal about that kind of thing. But yeah, the pain is already being felt by some. And we do just keep letting ourselves get tangled up in this little web of, well, I need to worry about me. I've got to take care of me. I've got to take care of the people right around me. What can the government do? And it's just infuriating that you can't even get to a point where you can say, why do we have an earned income credit? Because I've asked that question a multitude of times. Why do we have an earned income credit? Now, as far as the tax structure goes, I am a supporter of the fair tax as it's currently exists. I would love to see the fair tax enacted, do away with the IRS completely, all that wonderful jazz. I'm there. But if you're going to have this complicated tax code, if you want to give an extra deduction for whatever purpose you're giving these tax credits, then fine, do the deduction. Why do we have a tax credit? Well, obviously, it's a payoff. It's a bribe. It all comes down to the simple fact that if you will continue to vote for me, I will give you this money for free. A lot of Americans have been bought off, and that's where they're at. They're not seeing straight. They're not feeling any pain because they're still below those minimum thresholds. They feel like they're getting something. They feel like they're going to be okay as long as they're continuing to get that. And it doesn't occur to them. One of the messages that I've been bringing the longest on this show is that our government has $0 of its own. It has to take money from someone else in order to give money away, in order to buy anything, in order to pay government salaries, which means that our government should, in fact, be more concerned about saving American tax dollars as much as possible, being as fiscally conservative with those dollars as possible. The argument that I always try to use, I mentioned earlier in the interview that I used to be a manager in a quick service restaurant. When I did that, I worked with a lot of people who were extremely low income because, guess what? You're making minimum wage. You're not making a ton of income. Big surprise. The only way to get through to these people was having to use the example of their little pipe dream of winning the lottery. Because ever since the lottery came to Tennessee, well, everybody's going to win. which, by the way, somebody who just up the road, I'm here in Roane County, Harriman's part of that, just completely sidebar. Congratulations